Hey everybody, my name is Samantha, for those of you that are new to Top Dog Tips, and I do all sorts of different videos for our website, from product reviews and comparisons to how-to videos. Now, one of the questions that I get asked frequently is how to stop a dog from barking. This is kind of weird to make a video of because, of course, I can't make my dogs bark on cue, and I don't want to discipline my dogs for barking when they're supposed to be barking. So I thought that I would just sit here and discuss it with you, the different ways that you can stop your dog from barking. And I thought about doing it inside in front of our nice backdrop, but it's such a beautiful day out today that I decided I would sit out here. So if you're wondering why I'm just sitting here in a video, this doesn't happen very often, but today this is how I decided to do it. So talking about how to get dogs to start barking, the first thing you need to understand is why your dog's barking. And there are times when a dog is going to bark. You're not going to want to discipline your dog for barking for protecting your house. When people come, pull in your driveway, when they knock on your door, things like that. Excessive barking is one thing, but to bark and give you a warning is actually a good thing. That's a dog's job, and that's certainly not something that you should discipline for. Other times to bark is maybe when they see a strange dog or a strange animal in an area that they feel protective of. So it would be in your house, in your yard, things like that. We live in a very rural area. We have a nice big yard. Here's Sadie. Hi, Sades. This is our chocolate lab, Sadie. If you're new to my videos, if you're not, then you've probably seen Sadie in some of her crazy antics before. Sadie. So anyway, there are times when your dog is going to bark, and it's a good thing, and you want that, and you don't necessarily want to encourage it, but it's certainly your dog's natural instinct, so you don't want to discipline for those things. But at times when there are excessive barking, especially a lot of times indoors, when a dog's in a kennel, when he's inside by himself, when people come to your home, you don't want it to be excessive barking at other animals in your home, maybe. One problem that we struggled with our little beagle, Molly, she's about 6 months old, and when she first came to our home, she would bark at our cats. We have two older dogs, and then we have Molly, who's our newest, and so our cats were used to dogs, and they would just either lay on the ground or sit on a chair or do whatever they were doing. Her barking didn't intimidate them. Molly's also a beagle, so when we got her as a puppy, she was very, very small, and so she didn't intimidate our cats by any means. Our cats were bigger than her when she first started coming, so they wouldn't move, and she would just sit there and continuously bark at them and drive us crazy. So that was barking behavior that was unnecessary and that we needed to stop. So there are times like that when, the barking is unnecessary. You don't want that. Excuse Sadie. And you don't want the excessive barking. It's annoying. It may disturb your neighbors, disturb other people in your house. We have small kids, so I know what it's like to have a dog bark when you just get them to sleep, or when you're on the phone. I work from home, so things like that can be very annoying, and you want to stop that excessive barking. There are many ways to do that, but it really is going to depend on your dog, and it's going to depend on what they're barking at, what that motivation or that trigger is to bark. So these are things that you need to observe your dog, and you need to figure these things out. The sun is coming back out, so I'm going to throw my sunglasses on. So the first thing you want to figure out is, why is your dog barking? What is that motivation? And if possible, can you remove the motivation? So, for example, if your dog barks at people walking by your home, or if you live in the city and there's constant noise, traffic, things like that, if that's what your dog is barking at, if he's climbing up in the front window and he's barking at those things, you can't remove the people walking by your house, but these two are going to wrestle right on top of me. You can't remove the people walking by your house, or, for example, somebody walking their dogs, riding a horse. We live out here in the country, and that's something common. We live on a back road, so a lot of times people will ride horses down the road by our house. And those kind of things you can't necessarily get rid of, but you can get rid of the space that your dog uses. I'm sorry, they are distracting me. It's a little annoying, but if you could stop unwanted wrestling between your puppies, that would be good. Believe it or not, Sadie's only a year-old, so she still has a lot of that puppy energy. So anyway, if there's a situation like that where you can't necessarily remove the trigger, maybe you can remove the way that they see the trigger. So for example, we have a big picture window in our home, and we have an elevated dog bed, and by elevated it's because we have 2 large breeds, it's about 1.5 feet off the floor. So our dogs can climb onto that dog bed and look out the window perfectly. Even our little beagle, she can put her paws up and see out the picture window. So if that's the case, if your dog's getting up in the window, whatever they're climbing on to get up in the window, if that's something, remove that. If it's not something that they're climbing on, curtain those windows. Now our boxer, sometimes we close the windows because the sun's coming in and it'll reflect on the TV, or if I'm trying to make a video or something in the living room. These guys are just going to keep coming back around. I close those curtains, and if somebody comes to our house, like the UPS guy, if delivery man or somebody comes, our boxer will actually, because when the curtains come together, she will get her face in between and kind of swish the curtains around until she finds the opening. So if your dog's clever like that, you may need to get a special blind, or find a way to make it one big curtain, or stitch your 2 curtains together to make one big curtain that they can't get. But you might need to get creative in that, but block those windows where your dogs are able to see out. If you have a glass door and that's where your dog is getting to see out, that's something that you might want to consider. So you might need to be creative, but try and find a way to remove that motivation. Hey, no. Now, this is the joy of having puppies. Molly has somehow gotten out of her harness, and they're using that as a tug-of-war toy. So, sorry about that little interruption. And also, the other thing that I wanted to mention is it's starting to sprinkle just a little bit. It is still sunny out. As you can tell, I have my sunglasses on. We're getting a little sun shower. So, if you see drops, you know that it's just starting to sprinkle. So anyway, if you can remove that motivation, that's great. If you can create a distraction, if it's, say, for example, somebody coming to your house. Now, this is one thing that we have people coming in and out of our home on a daily basis. I have friends who I watch their children for them where they're gone to work because I work from home. So that's something where we have people come over. I'm also involved in the political process in our small town. So I have people that I sit on a number of committees, and I have people, Sadie, they are just going to be obnoxious through this video. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I sit on a number of committees. We have people in town coming to our home for different things and stuff like that. So one of the things that I want our dogs to do is bark when somebody comes to notify me as part of their job as protectors of our home. I want that. But what I don't want is that excessive barking where it almost comes across as aggressive and people are scared of them when they come to our home. So it's a fine line, but usually the way that I train dogs to do that is fairly simple. When they begin barking, I do let them bark a few times. I notify, and then I use a verbal cue, and I say, okay, mom's here, or okay, I know someone's here, something like that. Use a verbal cue, use the same one every time, and once you use that verbal cue, that's their sign to stop barking. So at that time, I would distract them with a treat, a very motivational treat. And for us, what we train our dogs to do, and you can train them to go in the other room or whatever, we train them to just sit on their dog bed. We have a dog bed right when you walk into our entryway. Our living room is just to the left. So we have a dog bed in the living room, and I train them to just go sit on that dog bed. So what you do is, your dog barks a few times, you give that verbal cue, whatever verbal cue you want, and then you use that treat to distract them, and another verbal cue of go sit on your bed, go to bed, go lay down, whatever that verbal cue is. So it's the verbal cue to stop barking, and then the verbal cue to go in the other room, go lay down, whatever it is you want them to do. And you bring that treat. At first, you're going to need to lead them over and put them where you want them. And there's that training process, but that's what we do. And now, after doing that with our dogs multiple times, now our dogs understand that they can bark a few times. It's very acceptable to bark and let us know that someone's here. But once we understand that someone's here and we've acknowledged that, then it's time for them to go lay down and not be aggressive towards our guests. Now, there are other times when you can't remove the motivation either. Like I just explained, when somebody comes to your house, you can't remove that motivation, but you can redirect your dog, and that would be the way to do that. There are times when you can't do either of those, and for example, one thing that comes to mind would be crate training. If you've crate trained a dog if you've crate trained a dog before, you will understand that sometimes that initial instinct is to whine or to bark when they are in their kennel and they don't want to be. This most commonly happened for us at night when people were still in the home. Our dogs very quickly realized that when people were not at home, see, now we live in a house on our own property and we have 9 acres, so our neighbors can't hear our dogs barking. But we can go outside and do things and leave the dog inside in the crate, and we can hear that they're not barking. So they figured out very quickly that if there's no people in the house, you're not going to get let out. But at night, it took them longer to realize that this is where they would go at night in the beginning when they were not house trained. So they would bark at us. Now, one of the things that worked for some of our dogs but doesn't work for all of them is putting a blanket over the kennel so that it's dark and they don't see what's going on. And it's also, dogs are denning animals, so when you cover the crate, it acts as that, because we always use the wire crates, so it's very open and you can see out. So we put a blanket over and it kind of gives them that sense of denning. So that might be something that you could try. But the thing that you would want to do in a situation like that where you can't remove the stimulation and it's something that you can't help and it's something that the dog's going to need to get used to, try and ignore the behavior and don't respond to the behavior. When you respond to it, even negatively, it's still giving your dog attention. And I know that sounds like backwards thinking, like your dog should understand that you're responding in a negative way, so that's not a good thing. But they don't. You're responding, and that's all that they get from it. Is even if you're responding negatively, you're still responding and giving them that attention. I should have let these guys burn off some energy before I filmed this video. So if your dog's, for example, in a crate, he's barking, you're not giving any negative attention, and when he does stop barking, you're going to give positive attention immediately and go ahead and praise, good dog, quiet. You can use another voice command, quiet, good dog, quiet, and give a treat. So he comes to realize that what you're looking for is for him to sit in his crate quietly. This can also work if you, for example, put your dog out in the backyard and he barks, and it's going to bother your neighbors or whatever. It's the same kind of thing. You don't want to give in to the attention even negatively, but you do want to make sure that you praise when he's doing what he's supposed to do, and very quickly he'll learn that barking is not an acceptable thing. The other thing that you can do is, speaking of burning energy, these guys burning energy before I filmed this reminded me that if it's something where, for example, you're putting them in the crate for the day, or you have to put them in the crate at night, don't come home from work and let your dog run around for a half an hour and then go to bed. Or say you go out at night. And so you go to work all day, you come home, your dog runs around for half an hour, and then he goes back in the crate, you go out for dinner or whatever, and you come home, and again, he's out for a few minutes and then has to go back in. You can't expect your dog to sit in a crate with all of that pent-up energy from the day. So you need to either have a dog walker, a friend, a neighbor, somebody come over and give your dog the attention that they need and get him out of the crate on those long days, or you need to know in advance that you're going to have to do that yourself. So you can plan for, I am going to go out to dinner tonight, but maybe I'm going to get out of work early to have a longer break, or maybe, I'm going to go to an early dinner so I can be home in time, or maybe you're just going to go out to dinner at a regular time, but you're going to stay up extra late to make sure that your dog gets to burn off that energy that he needs before you put him in the crate, or whatever the case may be. You want to make sure that he has that extra energy because you want to make sure that he burns that extra energy, because if not, some of it, think about your dog sitting in a crate. He can't run around to burn energy. He can't chew on your stuff to burn energy. He can't do any of those other naughty behaviors. What he can do is bark, and that's a way for him to release his energy. So you're disciplining him for something, but it's not necessarily his fault in that case. So that's something that you want to make sure happens. And then the other thing, when your dogs bark, and one of the things that we've had an issue with is when you leave your home and maybe you're going for a walk or something like that, or when people come into your home and you get that excessive barking. Or like if you go to the vet's office and they bark at other dogs, if they bark at the veterinarian, and maybe they're not aggressive, it's what they do. They're barking at that unknown person or that unknown animal. A head halter can be a really great tool to use in this case. What a head halter is it it goes around your dog's head. It's a halter, a harness, and it attaches to a leash. It goes around your dog's head and around his muzzle. And then when you, what it's made for is if your dog pulls on the leash, it puts pressure on his muzzle. In this case, you can use it. You can be the one to put pressure on his leash to just close his mouth. I'm not telling you to yank on it and squeeze his muzzle. I'm just saying that when, for example, if you're taking him to the vet and he barks at other dogs, so you're going to use your training, use those verbal cues, no barking, but that, because in that, let's use going to the vet. You can't remove the other dogs from the vet's office. You can't remove the other people. That's not feasible. So you need a way to correct your dog and show him what behavior you don't want. So by using the head halter to close his mouth, that's what you're doing. So what you would do, say you go to the vets and there's another dog coming out. Your dog starts barking. So you use that verbal cue, no barking, and you just gently pull on the head harness to close that head halter around his muzzle. And it's going to, again, take time, take patience. That goes with any type of dog training. But eventually your dog's going to realize that this is what my owner doesn't want. When I open my mouth to bark, he closes it, and I get that cue of no barking. So it's a long process. It's not something you can expect to do overnight, and that's as with any type of dog training. So if you have any questions about how to get your dog to start barking, again, it's such a broad spectrum because it depends so much on your dog and on the different triggers that make him bark, and it depends on why he's barking and those kind of things. Some certain breeds, hound breeds, tend to be more vocal and things like that. So there's a lot of variables, but it certainly can be done. These are some strategies that we've used that have been successful in the past, and I wanted to pass those on to you. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, make sure you shoot me an email, Samantha@topdogtips.com. You can find us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and Instagram. Any comments that you leave on social media or that you leave on our website, which is topdogtips.com, all of those comments will get back to me, and I will be happy to, if you leave your email address there or a way to contact you. For example, if you contact us on Facebook, send us a message and I will message you back. I do a lot of videos for the site. You'll see some other how-to videos as well as some product reviews and comparisons and things like that. So if there's something on the site, I highly encourage you to get on there and check it out. If there's something there that you're not finding that you'd be interested in, make sure you recommend that as well. If you're looking for it, odds are there are other pet parents looking for it as well. And that's the whole goal of the site, is to educate pet parents on whatever it is that you have questions about that you want to be educated on. So whether it's products or dog food or training or dog care, grooming, things like that, I'm happy to help out in any way that I can. I look forward to hearing from you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video on how to stop dog barking, and I will see you guys next time with another great video. Thanks guys, have a great day.